Now, I've always wanted to do a response to GodzillaMendoza's Batman Arkham Knight video. I just finished Batman Arkham Asylum and Arkham City for like the 20th time, and I'm not going to do any special editing or whatnot because usually these types of videos they don't really get many views on my channel. But I feel like the disappointing Arkham Knight gameplay video is especially disappointing and terrible. A lot of people, I know this video is 9 years old, but a lot of people like to go to it anyway to LARP and get misinformation from it. Now, hating Arkham Knight is completely understandable. However, it is a really fun game. Now, his Arkham Knight horrendous storytelling video, I'm not going to do a response to that. I do remember one of his main complaints was that the whole Joker blood thing doesn't make any sense. And, you know, to be fair here, Batman in general doesn't really make any sense at all. I mean, Arkham City literally has a guy who's made out of clay that tries to attack you, and that guy can transform into anything. So Joker's blood or whatever taking over Batman's mind, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But Batman has never really made any sense. It's not really the most grounded series ever. I mean, it's one of the more grounded superheroes, but it's still in the DC universe. It has mutants, gods, ghosts, all that kind of nonsense. So Joker's blood taking over Batman, it's not too hard to believe. He also whined about Jason Todd being upset at Batman, and it's kind of sad because it goes to show that GodzillaMendoza has no understanding of the effects of torture or PTSD that can cause someone to actually cry and be emotional. But whatever, But I'm just gonna reply to this Arkham Knight's disappointing gameplay video. Now, why is this game disappointing? Why is the gameplay disappointing? I mean, it literally plays like every other Arkham game, but with better gadgets. Let's hear what he has to say. Let's see. Let's see here. I'm just gonna skip this.
Besides, these are really popular games, and damn near everyone has talked about this series in the past. What could I say that hasn't been said already? Yes, they nailed it with Arkham Asylum. It's the perfect.
Alright, so we're just talking about Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. I thought we came here for Arkham Knight.
Claim that the DLC episodes were short and didn't have any free roam. Some people said that the Batmobile was a little overwhelming. Or some people just said that getting the ending was a pain in the ass. I feel like this game deserves more than just a few mumbles in the crowd of other shit going on in 2015. There's a lot to talk about here. Primarily that this one was kind of disappointing. Okay, controversial statement. It's not as much of a letdown as No Man's Sky was or anything, but this certainly didn't feel like it was up to the quality standard of gameplay and storytelling the other 2.5 games had.
Bullshit. Gameplay-wise, Arkham Knight is the best one in the franchise.
Now, I know a lot of people are already...
And let's talk about the other Arkham game storytelling. I mean, Arkham Origins, it has an alright story. I mean, it rushed the Killing Joke plotline. But, I mean, Arkham Origins is still just a generic Batman story. Joker's on a loose, go stop him. Arkham Asylum, Joker's on a loose, Batman has to go stop him. Arkham City mashed things up a little bit, but there were so many flaws with Arkham City's narratives. Like, oh my goodness, where do I start? Like how Hugo Strange knew Batman's identity and doesn't do anything with that information whatsoever. There's some other issues with Arkham City's story, but let's focus on Arkham Knight.
I'm up my ass about not liking this one because die-hard fans are called that for a reason. But please, hear me out first. If I haven't convinced you that this wasn't a good closer for the series by the end of the video...
It's still way better of a closure to the series than other games.
I'll practically give you the car. Seriously though, I don't want it. You can have it.
Not liking the Batmobile is understandable, but I mean it's still fun though. With the Batmobile, it was a win-win. It was a win or lose situation. With the Batmobile, it was a lose-lose situation. See, if they didn't add in the Batmobile, people would complain. If they did add in the Batmobile, people would still complain. Jesus Christ! Enough with the fancy editing. Just get to the fucking point.
But it seemed like the idea was the game was alright too. But that fucking cake was awesome. The first thing that stuck out to me when I played it,
Let's see, Arkham Asylum
I was in like 4th or something. But
Oh yeah.
pretty much the same.
Get to talking about Arkham Knight.
Now for this one, well, we could, you see we just,
Again, why is he hesitating? Arkham Knight plays exactly like Arkham City and Arkham Origins, and even Arkham Asylum.
Batmobile!
There's actually a video that points out that the Batmobile only plays like 30% of a role in the entire game. I think that boy Aqua pointed that out.
Batmobile! The story also feels completely disconnected from the previous one in terms of its villains. Scarecrow is almost a completely different character now for some reason, and the Arkham Knight himself...
For some reason, Scarecrow is a different character because he survived getting attacked by Killer Croc, which was both a mixture of his and Batman's fault. But yeah, there's a reason why Scarecrow's pissed off.
One in terms of its villains. Scarecrow is almost a completely different character now for some reason, and the Arkham Knight himself was sold to us as someone who would have witnessed the events of the previous two games.
I don't know who ever said or confirmed that. I keep hearing people say that that Rocksteady advertised the Arkham Knight as like an own original villain or something like that, but I could never find any sort of source to confirm that.
Someone that had been there all along, getting ready to shut Batman down. And holy hell, was it a cool idea for them to invent a new villain native to this series of games? Nobody's done that before with a superhero game that I know of. Of course, all of this was lies to hype up the story before release. I remember a lot.
Again, who is lying? Because it seems like the only people that made those types of claims were Arkham fans, not the developers of the game.
People speculating on characters in this series that it could have been. Perhaps it was a fear toxin-induced mirror image of Batman.
That's retarded. But when are we going to get to you talking about that gameplay? I didn't come here to hear you talk about the story.
Where he sees a version of himself as a gun-wielding...
By the way, I don't like. But anyway, earlier I said that the other Arkham games have flawed stories, and yeah, when I think of games that I play for the story, that would be Red Dead Redemption 2 or the first Red Dead Redemption game, or Xenoblade Chronicles, or any JRPG ever. The Batman Arkham games are not something I go to for the story. They're pretty standard stories.
Monster that takes over the city and harms the innocent. Would be the first time Batman battles a ghost of his own imagination, seeing how every single installment...
Okay, so he's just talking about the story. Let's see here.
Quick glances at Wikipedia could stare at this and say it's obviously you-know-who. Which...
We're 7 minutes in and he still hasn't talked about the Arkham Knight's disappointing gameplay. Hurry the fuck up.
Game. I don't even know where to start. I've written and erased this paragraph 5 times. There is so much wrong with this game. Maybe we'll just start with something simple. The gameplay. Arkham Knight takes the gameplay ideas we loved from previous games and applies them to about 1 hour of this game. Then spends the entire rest of the game in the Batmobile.
Okay, well that's just a straight up lie. I mean, yes, there are segments with the Batmobile, but no, a lot... Like, literally, the YouTuber That Boy Aqua pointed out how, you spend most of the game, outside of the Batmobile.
Now, fans were begging for the Batmobile to be...
Like, geez, some sort of critic this guy is. He's pretty dishonest.
...playable for years before this came out. And Rocksteady listened. What fans didn't ask for was that the majority of the game take place in a vehicle that is essentially an 18-ton...
The majority of the game takes place in the Batmobile. I don't think GodzillaMendoza understands the meaning of the word majority. Like, what is he, retarded?
It's pretty much the main mechanic of the game. Everything...
No, it is not. The main mechanic of the game is pretty much the same main mechanics that we saw in previous Arkham games. The Batmobile is just a new thing. I can understand not liking the Batmobile, but saying that the majority of the game takes place inside the Batmobile is just objectively wrong, misinformation. I don't even think... I'm starting to doubt if GodzillaMendoza even played Arkham Knight. Maybe someone... I wouldn't be surprised if he paid someone to just play it for him. Because he seems like a very dishonest journalist.
Been able to do reliably on his own for 3 games now requires the use of the Batmobile.
Wait, what'd you say? Hold on.
Everything that Batman has been able to do reliably on his own for 3 games now requires the use of the Batmobile.
No, there are a lot of moments in the game where Batman does what he did in previous games. And you're using a segment where he's fighting tanks. He never did that in previous games. So him using the Batmobile here is understandable. Again, I can understand not liking the tank battles. I personally thought they were okay. But this wasn't a thing in previous Arkham games. What games have you been playing?
Remember running across rooftops, gliding around, using the grapple hook to scale tall buildings?
You can still do that in Arkham Knight. In fact, Arkham Knight has the tallest buildings in the franchise. Retard. I mean, there is that one segment in Arkham City with Wonder Tower, but you don't really climb the full tower. You take an elevator up there for the most part.
That is behavior that feels actively discouraged now. Every mission finds a way to force you back into the thing.
No, not every mission finds a way to force you back into the Batmobile. Two-Face's mission, bank heist mission, there's no Batmobile there except when you're bringing Two-Face back to the GCPD. Going after Professor Pig, no Batmobile needed for that. What else? The Penguin missions. In fact, the Penguin missions don't encourage you to use a Batmobile because you gotta trail a vehicle and you gotta basically glide. There are some moments in the missions there are some missions that do require the Batmobile, but most of them don't. I mean, going after Man-Bat, you spend most of that mission in air. And beating up militia soldiers, those missions also don't really require the Batmobile. There are some militia soldier missions that do require the Batmobile, but they're very few and far between. Most of them are just Batman going to an area, beating them up, and using stealth tactics.
I also can't begin to explain how stupid it is that all of Riddler's traps require you to use the car in some capacity.
I mean, it was pretty stupid how his traps in Arkham City, required Batman to use his gadgets, which were very convenient.
We have 3 entries in this series with genuinely mind-boggling puzzles.
Really? You're using this example as a mind-boggling puzzle. This puzzle was mind-boggling to you? You're retarded. So in this puzzle, this is from Arkham City. There's a trap guard, and you got to pick which one of these chambers is the right chamber the guard is in. All you got to do is just turn on the detective mode, which lets you see through walls and stuff. Like, I'm sorry, you said these games had unique puzzles? What are you talking about? They didn't really have that unique puzzles.
But it is that all of Riddler's traps require...
By the way, not all of Riddler's traps require the Batmobile. When you have to go save Catwoman, you're inside the orphanage. There are no, Batmobile segments in the orphanage. What is this retard talking about?
The car in some capacity. We have 3 entries in this series with genuinely mind-boggling puzzles.
Okay, and mind-boggling puzzles in Arkham Asylum? I can't think of any mind-boggling puzzles in Arkham Asylum, and I literally have video evidence on my YouTube channel me doing all the Riddler stuff. There were no mind-boggling puzzles in Arkham Origins. In fact, Arkham Origins doesn't even reward you with anything for going after Riddler. In Arkham Origins, when you go after Riddler, you don't get him getting arrested or nothing. He just gets away off screen. Holy shit, this guy is just dumb.
Complicated challenges using the game's physics, or sometimes...
If these challenges were complicated to you, my goodness.
Complex death traps that make Jigsaw look like Jigsaw. I was one of those masochists who solved every single riddle in all 3 games. And
you're not really the only one. Lots of people do it. I did it myself. It wasn't that hard. I don't know. Maybe I'm just smarter than you because I just had no issues doing these puzzles.
Riddler's so tapped for ideas that he's resorted to just making a giant racetrack. This is the ultimate test of your intelligence.
Again, there's other traps that Riddler set up throughout the game that don't involve the Batmobile, including putting bombs into people's heads that Batman has to defuse before they explode. Not to mention Batman and Catwoman teaming up in the orphanage.
A fucking racetrack that he lets you do over if you don't make the time limit.
Well, that's a video game for you.
Good enough. Too slow, detective.
I don't really see... That's actually a Riddler's character. For him to be so arrogant that he'll, force you, or he'll talk trash about you having to redo the puzzle or race or whatever.
Are you kidding me?
Wow, skill issue. He's demonstrating his poor skill. I mean, this is very easy to avoid. Alright, so this is cringe. She's doing like a nostalgia critic tier skit or something like that. Just gonna skip that. Jesus, he's still doing the skit. That was like 2 minutes long.
Oh, god damn it!
Man. Let's see.
It's okay, man. Sure, you put in a ton of effort. I'm proud of you for trying. Okay, man, they can't all be winners. Put in the time of day. So many aspects of the world make zero sense in order to excuse for the Batmobile's numerous logistical problems. Let me ask you this. With the Arkham Knight knowing as much about Batman as he does, would he not have come up with a better way to manipulate Batman than just doing what everyone else does and throwing a million grunts at him?
We know how you think.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't really have a game if that was the case. Yeah, it doesn't make sense that, not all of the Arkham Knight's men are armed and, they all have weapons or whatnot. But this is still a video game at the end of the day. There still needs to be some kind of balance. Not every video game needs to make 100% sense. Especially when you're talking about Batman, mainstream DC.
The entire city is
Like, this is like a series full of gods, ghosts, and mutants. In fact, Arkham City even introduced, undead zombie people like Ra's al Ghul and Solomon Grundy. Of course, Arkham Knight is not going to make any better sense.
rolled by unmanned tanks that are presumably operated by some guy and a bunch of laptops. But what if they were all individually piloted by the militia members?
It wouldn't matter. Batman would still figure out a way to get rid of those tanks, even if they were armed with people in them. In fact, when Batman's chasing down vehicles in this game, he actually can destroy vehicles, without killing people. The tanks being unarmed, that just gives the player more of an excuse to, to just go full all out.
Them up with missiles and bullets now because of the no-killing rule. Or, better yet, just tie random civilians to the tops of the
What random civilians? Most of them evacuated the city.
tanks. That way you don't have to train 200 people to drive these things. Either way, the story making more sense suddenly tramples on the gameplay because you can't have epic tank battles unless they're unmanned. And Batman shooting an EMP cannon doesn't exactly sound as appealing. People want shooting, apparently.
Again, you only do about, 20% tank fights in this game? Like 80% of this game is like regular Batman Arkham stuff, and then 20% of it is still, in the tank. Which, again, the tank stuff is subjective. Some people like it, some people don't. I understand both perspectives.
Every minor gameplay sequence in previous games is now handled with the Bat Tank. Following its...
Again, objectively wrong. There are so many sequences in this game that don't require the Bat Tank. Having to trail down one of Penguin's vans, going after Ra's al Ghul, going after Killer Croc. Oh my goodness. Like, going after the Mad Hatter. Like, yeah, there are missions that do require the Batmobile, but not all of them. And even the mission, the only mission that I do recall, I'm about to replay the game, but the only mission that I do recall that does require 100% Batmobile would be the Riddler racing missions, which aren't the only Riddler death traps, and disarming the Arkham Knight's bombs. Oh, and that, and of course, that Slade boss fight. Yeah, the Slade boss fight in Arkham Knight was embarrassing.
Due to the bad guys. Do it in the tank! Puzzles with a grapple hook. Do it in the tank!
There are still puzzles that you can still solve in Arkham Knight without the tank. What a disingenuous retard.
Even the fucking stealth sequences. Do it in the tank!
You're acting like there are no stealth sequences in this game in Arkham Knight. Very misinformative.
Why does everyone say the gameplay is good? This borders on being hilarious because they actually...
People say the gameplay is good because the gameplay is just like Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, but on steroids. Yeah, there's tank stuff in it, but the stuff that you did in previous Arkham games is like pushed up to the max. Also, Arkham Knight has the best enemy variety. Again, I don't think Godzilla Mendoza, whatever. I don't think he's actually played this game.
Have you sneaking around in your giant missile launching car?
I actually like the Cobra boss fights in Arkham Knight. They are pretty intense because these Cobra drones, they can borderline one shot the Bat tank. So you got to be careful fighting them, unlike with other tanks.
Even bigger missile launching vehicles. Did no one else think this was silly?
I mean, there's Batman. Batman's, like it or not, Batman is a silly person. Or, at least a silly character and concept. I mean, he literally goes around dressed up in a bat suit. Nobody in real life does that. Who goes around in real life and fights crime and does that anyway.
What's up, bitches? I'm here to stock up on Robin.
See, look at that. He's going inside the orphanage right here. And when you go in the orphanage, there is no Batmobile required. There's plenty of segments in this game that don't require the Batmobile.
I keep running out lately. I mean, it would be fine if the Batmobile combat was at least fun, but it's just irritating.
Well, fun is subjective. I found them fun. Lots of other people found them fun. How long are you going to bitch about the Bat tank and lie about it being overused?
Feels like it's there to consume your time. The gameplay basically boils down to sitting perfectly still and waiting for the other vehicle to lock on.
Oh, wait. The gameplay revolves around sitting around perfectly still. Okay. I want Godzilla Mendoza to play Arkham Knight and sit perfectly still during during one of these, drone segments. Yeah, do that. Stay perfectly still. Don't do any maneuvers or whatnot. I'm pretty sure you'll last long.
Then you just lazily slide in a different direction, and it can't hit you. It's boring because it's so hard to
Oh, wait. So you just said you had to stay still. But now you're saying you gotta lazily slide. You gotta pick one, buddy.
It's not very demanding in terms of strategy. Everyone else just sits perfectly still and waits politely for...
That's objectively wrong. In fact, the footage she's using here shows the drones and whatnot moving around.
...for you to move out of their firing path. As long as you shoot at the obvious glowing weak spots on these things the second you see them, they may never even get a hit in. It's especially embarrassing when you put them in a close quarters area and just massacre them. It's good to know the main enemy type of the game can only be threatening if the player falls asleep.
Oh, then again, you're playing as Batman, and Arkham Knight universe Batman is one of the most broken OP characters in gaming history. Like, even without the tank, most enemies do not stand a chance against Batman. These games aren't that hard. They're not Dark Souls or anything like that.
At the controls, which might actually happen. Even Batgirl sounds disinterested in the tank battles.
Alright, let's see here. Just skipping over him bitching about the tank. Ah, great.
Learned from many other games decades ago already.
Why are we comparing Grand Theft Auto to Batman?
The lesson is that you can't give enough people the ability to drive around however they want with no penalty. They will drive over anything that isn't on the road just for the hell of it. Vehicular manslaughter is a bit out of character for Bruce, however. So the entire city is devoid of civilians and every person on the street...
Yeah, because Scarecrow made a huge terrorist warning, to tell people, hey, I'm about to, do this bomb. And what's clever about Scarecrow's plan is that him evacuating the city also kind of benefits him as well. Like, yeah, there's no civilians, but his plan doesn't really require civilians at all.
Counted as an enemy.
Because, he was able to, take over the factory and stuff.
Most likely deserves to get run over. So let's put an electricity effect on them to imply the car just tased them instead of slop.
That's actually hilarious whenever Batman's Batmobile tases people. I don't really see an issue with that. Yeah, it's unrealistic. But again, this is the Arkham games. These games have a man made out of clay. Batman Arkham games have ghost in them. It's not... Jesus, you're expecting realism in a game that literally has a zombie man in it, Ra's al Ghul. It's like most of this video is him just bitching about the Bat tank, which is understandable. You don't like it, we get it. 10 minutes of this. God, you're just 10 minutes of bitching and moaning.
I don't need to tell you that being hit by a taser the size of 2 lanes of traffic going next...
Again, it's DC. It's not really realistic. Let's just skip over this nonsense critique. Okay, he's demonstrating that he's not really good at handling the Batmobile. Understandable. Skill issue on your part. Again, he's just showing off this terrible gameplay to try to make the game look bad. Just because you're retarded enough to play Batman Arkham Knight like this doesn't mean that everybody else has to be.
I don't blame you.
Oh, don't worry, those guys will be fine. It was a non-lethal crushing.
I mean, in Arkham Asylum during the Harley Quinn, well, it's not a boss fight, but Harley Quinn sends a bunch of men after Batman, and you can literally have Batman pick someone up and then just throw them off the ledge, and there's like a bottomless pit at the bottom. So again, but that didn't really ruin Batman Arkham Asylum for me, I'm just saying, like, there are moments in these Arkham games where Batman does, come off as murdering someone, but the game's logic said that it doesn't. And again, it's Batman. It's not really meant to be realistic.
Oh, come on!
When are you going to talk about the hand-to-hand combat or the stealth segments? In fact, speaking again, when you go to the airship, there's no Batmobile stuff at all, bitch.
Now, in defense of the Batmobile, if it were used...
Let's see.
It's already so fucking classy. And such a...
Let's see.
To include. So the Batmobile is basically a giant rolling lost car.
Oh my god. This video should be retitled. Instead of calling it Arkham Knight's disappointing gameplay, just call it GodzillaMendoza spends 20 plus minutes bitching about the Batmobile.
This game. But what about the traditional gameplay segments?
Oh, finally, he's getting there. Because again, about 80% of the game is traditional Arkham gameplay. Only it's on steroids now. Like, the combat and stealth are way better than Arkham Asylum and Arkham Cities.
Well, I guess if there's anything I must praise, it's that the combat is at its best. It's so satisfying.
Finally, I mean, it took him 20 minutes to say something correct.
Take on a room full of a dozen bad guys without breaking a combo. It's challenging enough that you can screw it up, but with practice, you feel like such a badass. The only major additions are the use of environmental objects and the inclusion of weapons that you can pick up.
And also the inclusion of, Batman being able to team up with Nightwing, Catwoman, and Robin during certain segments.
You've ever wanted to see Batman smash through a room full of people with a baseball bat? Here you go. Depending on where you're at in the story, you might also have another character.
Oh, okay, you brought that up. Good.
To the right, and you can switch to playing as them in the middle of combat. They even give you team...
Wow, notice how he basically just lied. I already pointed out that he lied, but he said that you spend most of the game in the Batmobile, but that's not the truth at all. A lot of this game is just traditional Arkham combat.
Downs. This is a really cool improvement, and it makes for an interesting way for Batman to interact with characters from the Bat family. Which is a nice change of pace considering how he's been alone for every game until now. There's also the addition of enemies that can get back up or be revived by their teammates, making you have to consider which ones are most important to take out first. I guess the riddles in this one are pretty much the standard fare for indoor sections.
What the fuck? You just said the Riddler channel. Oh, screw it.
I have the same love-hate relationship with them that I've always had. Ah, shit, I am super colorblind. Well, guess I'm gonna be here for a while. Now, some of the previous Arkham games have always been praised for is the stealth gameplay, in which Batman has X-ray vision that you might forget to turn off after a while. Be honest, you played at least 80% of Arkham Asylum with every NPC being a glowing skeleton. Arkham Asylum, City, and Origins all had a lot of work put into level design surrounding these stealth sequences, and they offered a lot of variety to the way you could suffocate buff, shirtless men with your bulky leather gloves. Arguably, one of Arkham Knight's biggest missteps is that the stealth areas are kind of poorly designed.
No, they're not.
The majority of the floor is covered in the grates, and you might end up spending every single one of these segments just hiding in the ground and waiting to nab people.
Well, that's you. You don't gotta use the crates. That's a skill issue on your part. There are multiple videos, of they're called lore accurate Batman videos that show off how there's so many stealth strategies in this game. You don't gotta spend them in crates.
All of these sequences take place outside and in the open air on rooftops. So the amount of tactics you can use and...
I got wait, you say almost all? I would say it's more like half. I mean, what where that stealth those stealth parts where you had to go after Two Face and the Bane, those were definitely inside. They weren't outside. And there's other stealth segments in the game that aren't outside either. In fact, most of the stealth segments that are outside in Arkham Knight are optional. You know, like they're optional side quest type shit.
Places you can hide are generally really limited. This is
Skill issue. And no, there's plenty of creeps and corners to hide around. I mean, for Christ's sakes, you're showing a gargoyle up here that Batman can grapple onto. What do you mean limited? Like, do you just not know how to hide behind a wall or something, retard?
probably because the game has maybe 4 substantial levels that take place indoors. The rest
Yeah, you can't count worth a damn. There's multiple levels that take place indoors.
are short side missions or DLC stuff.
I mean, not Robin's, but the Arkham Knight's boss fight is literally indoors, and that's a stealth segment.
For the main campaign, the stealth usually sucks. However, in the side
The
missions,
stealth usually sucks. It's the same stealth that we got in previous Arkham games. What are you talking about? But then again, you also lied too because previously you said that most of the game takes place inside a car, and you're objectively wrong on that.
they give you areas that are actually well thought out and require you to really strategize again. The best examples probably being the Two-Face bank robbery missions. These areas are some of the best in the game because you don't spend most of them waiting around under the floorboards like a depressed trapdoor spider.
Also, the airship missions, those aren't. The airship sections, those aren't outside. When you go team up with Robin and Panessa Studios, those aren't outside.
A real addition to any of the stealth gameplay is one new mechanic, the Fear multi-takedown.
There's actually multiple new mechanics. I mean, what a dumbass.
It's basically a big, loud, slow-motion super move that you can do to lay out multiple guys at once. You can upgrade it to affect 5 people at a time very early in the game, and it only takes 1 stealth takedown to charge it up. So, in the stealth gameplay, the devs gave you a mechanic that basically discourages you from being stealthy.
No, you still gotta be stealthy. And if you don't like using the fair takedowns, I don't know, maybe you just hate fun, but you don't gotta use them if you don't want to. Also, he claims that the devs gave people a mechanic that encourages them from being stealthy. GodzillaMendoza also claims that, the fear takedown mechanic discourages people from being stealthy, but the other Arkham games also had mechanics and gadgets that discourage people from being stealthy.
Multiple guys at once. You can upgrade it to effect basically discourages you from being stealthy and require.
I mean, as soon as I unlocked that freeze grenade in Arkham City, I was using that to be less stealthy. Also, the smoke bombs and what? Oh yeah, the electric gun. These games aren't that stealthy now. Come on.
There's essentially no strategy at all.
No strategy at all. Yeah, Arkham Knight has the smartest AI in the Arkham franchise, but no strategy at all. Sure, you're just fucking dumb.
Idea. Next, you'll be giving us a cheat button during the puzzle sequences in case they get too hard for everyone.
It's so funny because nowadays a lot of modern games do that.
Do you do a lot of work for them?
Only when you're not looking. Okay, the boss fights haven't been a strong point for the Arkham series. A lot of them in the first game really just boiled down to jumping out of the way while a big guy runs at you, then wait till he gets stuck in a wall or gets tired or something, and then go wail on him. The second game improved with that awesome fight with Solomon Grundy and the stealth sequence against Mr. Freeze. Now, while the game as a whole wasn't the best, Arkham Origins even had some really good ones, like Firefly and...
No, not really. And Firefly, during the Firefly boss fight, all you gotta do is throw I said grenade. All you gotta do is throw glue grenades at them and then just spam the batarangs. And then you get a quick time event to grapple onto them. It's not really that complex of a boss fight.
Super Bane.
It was a Super Bane boss fight in Arkham Origins. That was more like a ripoff of Mr. Freeze, to be honest. Because the thing about Mr. Freeze in Arkham City is that you had to use stealth to take him down. But unlike Mr. Freeze, Super Bane doesn't learn from his mistakes, so you can pretty much just spam the same strategies on Super Bane, unlike with Mr. Freeze, who adapts to your strategies.
Firefly and Super.
Like the Super Bane boss fight, I understand why they went that route because the Mr. Freeze boss fight was the most popular thing ever back then. But still, the boss fight against Bane in Arkham Origins is a joke because all you gotta do is just wait for him to turn his back and then just sneak up from behind.
Bane. Don't even try to tell me that Ninja Battle with Deathstroke wasn't cool.
It was cool, but I don't like how it reused the same fighting animations from Ra's al Ghul in Arkham City.
Now you got tanks. Death.
You don't really got tanks. I mean, the Killer Croc has his boss fight, but oh yeah, Albert King has a boss fight too. But yeah, there are some the tank boss fights in this game. They are disappointing.
Rogue is in this game too, and his boss fight is a tank battle. We went from this to this.
That's
Say it again.
geez, another advertisement. But yeah, that's another that's a genuine complaint that the boss fights in Arkham Knight aren't that good.
It's just a repeat of the Arkham Knight boss fight with a different voice shouting generic bad guy dialogue at you. You know what? Let's run down this as quickly as possible. Firefly is in this game, and you beat him by just following him around until his jetpack runs out of gas for the third time in a row.
Yep, the boss fights are the worst in the series, but still, the gameplay is the best. Like outside the boss fights, Arkham Knight has the best gameplay.
A professional boxer becomes infected with a virus that turns him into the Joker, and his fight is really more of just a quick time event than anything else.
Oh, you are
You
just
defeat
so wrong about that. Jesus Christ.
And Bat by just hopping on his back 3 times in various segments
The Man-Bat, that's not really a boss fight.
of the game. The Riddler is not a character you should ever have to fight because it's beneath his character. But
Who are you to say what is beneath someone's character? Like, did you create the character? No, you didn't. It makes sense and plus, you're not just fighting Riddler, with Riddler having no weapons or nothing like that. Riddler has a giant ass Metal Gear in this game. Of course, Jesus
it's
Christ.
a big dumb robot that you'll never have the patience to see because puzzles. Two-Face is pretty much just a reskin of a normal enemy type and can be dealt with as such.
Yeah, but then again, it's Two-Face. He's not really. I mean, when you really think about it, how can Two-Face be a threat to Arkham Universe Batman? I mean, I'm pretty sure he's a threat to comic universe Batman, and then Batman TAS, he is a more threatening person. But in the Arkham universe, there's no way Two-Face could stand a chance against Batman.
Twin is pretty much just a reskin of a normal enemy type and can be dealt with as such.
What normal enemy type is that? Like, what?
Yeah, the bosses are all kind of...
I mean, then again, the fight you have with Harley Quinn in Arkham City wasn't that good either. In fact, Harley Quinn's boss fight in Arkham City is a reskin of the Two-Face boss in Arkham City because those two have the same type of boss fight. Basically, the boss has a gun and they're surrounded by mooks and minions who keep respawning and you gotta take them down. Anyway, Harley Quinn never really had that much of an original boss fight.
non-existent. Hey, the city looks great and all, but isn't it a little strange that Gotham City is composed of 5 separate islands in the middle of a bay, and Wayne Manor isn't on any of them? Does that mean that Batman actually lives in, like, Bloodhaven? Or...
I don't think so. Batman lives in the Gotham district. It's just that, his mansion isn't in the city. Why would a city have a big ass mansion anyway? I mean, you could apply that to the Batman TAS show as well.
according to the movie's Metropolis? Now, this entire review so far has been devoted to rounding up all the poor design choices or just general logical fallacies. And that's really just me stalling for time, because I was genuinely afraid to talk about this game's story. It's not because the story is vague or absent. It's that every individual component...
Why are you afraid to talk about a story? Like, man the fuck up, pussy.
...of it makes me furious. Because I had such high...
Alright, so yeah, that's the end of the gameplay video. It was literally just 20 minutes of him bitching about the fucking Batmobile segments. Awful video. And I'm glad that Arkham Knight has gotten so much more praise as time went on. You know? It's a shame too to see people actually LARP to this video, but this is like the only negative Arkham Knight video on YouTube that people can find anyway. Most Arkham Knight videos on YouTube are very positive, and that's pretty cool. And yeah,